Beloved trance UU minister and poet Sean Parker Dennison writes, "At this moment of ending, may there be a good word, a blessing, to help us remember what we have so often forgotten. May the message we need be gently spoken and held in the spaces in ourselves, the fibers that hold all we need to maintain our gentleness, our hope, and our courage. At this moment of ending, may the goodness we wish for ourselves and each other, this community, ecosystem, planet, and stardust galaxy, may that goodness become such a part of us that we can't tell where the blessing ends and we begin." I have experienced hundreds of exquisitely important and beautiful moments here, memories and lessons that you have gifted me and that I will bring to others, so your influence will ripple on and on and on. One of the first lessons Aaliyah taught me about congregational ministry is that it's our job to tell the congregation about itself, to name what we experience as unique and vital and special. I love this, and I've tried to weave it throughout my time here. Last year, I spoke on your gift of spacious grace. On May 5th, I talked about love. Grace and love are core qualities of this particular community. And today I'm going to focus on one more, which is trust. Trust is the currency with which this whole church is led. Decisions here are based on an anatomy of trust that has been freeing and life-giving to lead and work and live within. Like all of our core gifts, both individual and collective, institutional, when they're functioning seamlessly, they're just part of the fabric. They're not necessarily pulled out and named. But that's our job. So what is it that we're trusting? Research is actually showing that the very first thing our brains do in any situation is to ask two questions in this order. The first, am I safe? Am I okay here? What exactly it means to feel safe is both universal and very personal. What safe means to each of us has to do with what we've experienced, including our history of trauma, adverse childhood experiences, the particular challenges of our individual brains and bodies in any given moment. We're not aware that our brains are asking these questions, but they are. Children, youth, adults, elders. So the first question, am I safe? If my answer is no, then I unquestionably have to start doing something to change that. If my answer is yes, I'm safe enough, then the second question the brain asks is, am I loved? And for most of us, most of the time, that manifests as something like, am I connected with other humans in this place who will let me be myself? Am I with people who will embrace me as I am? Do I feel like I don't have to change anything about who I am to belong here? I might need to change some things about how I'm behaving, but that's different than feeling like who I am doesn't belong here. So if my answer to am I loved is no, then I need to find a way to either become beloved in this place or find a way to leave. I will also say, to the extent that each of us can feel deeply connected with the love inside when we're believing what Julian of Norwich and our Universalist ancestors and the original messages of Mary Magdalene and Jesus and Buddha and the Dalai Lama and all sorts of other sages, amazing people, to the extent that we experience ourselves as inseparable from love, then the answer to that second question can be yes. I'm loved. We are loved no matter where we are, no matter what's going on around us, no matter who is around us and how they feel about us. That's not always accessible. Sometimes it is. Okay. So, am I safe? Am I loved? If our answer to both of those questions in any given situation is yes, then and only then can we open and receive what's being offered in that place at that time. Whether we're in a church community, a school classroom, whether we're in a family, a group of friends, a partnership, only if on this basic level we feel safe and loved can we then ask, what can I learn here? How can I open to the people around me, to the messages I'm receiving? How can I change and grow here? I have learned that communicating that message to each of you, that message that here you are safe and loved, and here we will do everything in our power to protect you feeling safe and loved. Communicating that message is our first and most important vital work as ministers. This is also the ministry that Aaliyah and I will try to recruit you to every day. We want you to help each other feel safe and loved here. And I think it's the most important message we could possibly offer the children of our church. You are safe here. You are loved. You are beloved exactly as you are. And so I think that the answer to the question, what are we trusting? When I say this church is built on an anatomy of trust, that it runs on trust, what are we trusting? Each other, yes, but we're trusting those messages. We're trusting that we're safe and we will continue to be. We're trusting that we're loved and we will continue to be. I have experienced trust manifesting here in so many ways. People write prayer cards and emails, and each of those is a gift. You're entrusting us with something dear to you, so dear to you, and it's such an honor to receive and hold those. I think trust is the reason that I can dance up on the chancel, because trust enables playfulness and connection and flow. And playfulness, connection, and flow are incredibly potent at supporting our well-being, at helping us feel alive and joyful. Back when we were having outside church, so fall 2021, I needed to introduce a congregant who was going to come up to the microphone and speak. And I had come to know them a little, and I found them so easy to love. I had a lot of admiration for this person, for who they are in the world. And so when I called them up, I spontaneously said, "It is my honor to invite so-and-so up." I didn't think twice about it. And the next week, the person wrote me this beautiful and impactful card saying what it had meant to them that I used the word honor to refer to them. They wrote and sent that card because people here are used to trusting that they matter. You're used to trusting that you have impact. I have thought about that so often. I learned a lot of different things from it. In part, the way trust within a community just keeps getting paid forward. The way our exact choice of words in a spiritual context can be deeply important. There was another time when someone was really shook up because they had just met a neighbor who they hadn't known really needed help. And they came over here afterward and asked if I would help process that experience. This is because you trust that you matter. Some of you send messages to us saying you've been thinking about something that we said on Sunday or something you appreciated. And I know that you do that with each other too. What a gift that is. Because of trust, I've had people come to me with their struggles about who I am, with their concerns about how I do ministry in general, or about something particular that was problematic. And each of those was a huge gift, especially when we're able to stay connected, to stay at the table together, to really listen. And each one of those folks, even as they struggled, gave me enough trust to come and say it and not just disappear. And I'm deeply grateful for that. When Aaliyah and I had just met almost 4 years ago, she was about to talk with the board about the possibility of me coming here. And she asked for my resume to pass on to the board. Now, I choose to put my pronouns on my resume. So not knowing yet about the kind of trust that exists here, I said, so I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm actually trans, non-binary, and I use they, them pronouns. And I sort of trailed off into an implied question that I didn't quite formulate. And Aaliyah said, yeah, I noticed. It'll be excellent work for me and the board and the congregation to do. And I'm afraid I can't tell you we've already done it, but I know we're willing. So first of all, she didn't say, oh yeah, we're good with that. And second of all, she hadn't told you all in that moment. She trusted that you were willing. She trusted that if she and I said to you, this is important, that you would show up and do the work with us. And what was she saying to me? You can be safe here. You can be loved here. Right? And because those two things were true, then I knew I could learn and grow here. Because if I'm not safe here and I'm not loved here, I can't learn and grow here. One more story. Valentine's Day 2022, COVID was surging, and we decided to have a drive-up, make-your-own Valentine's party in front of the church, outside, right? So people made Valentines to give to medical staff at local hospitals and some to take home with them. We had red hearts and pink hearts and stickers and glue and scissors, markers, probably glitter, I don't remember. It was chilly but not bitter cold, and the sun was shining. And someone had made a whole pile of beautiful fabric hearts cut out of fabric. And they were like several layers all stitched together, and they had wonderful edges. They were just amazing. So I brought my son, Lars, who, like me, loves being outside in the cold weather. Now, he was in his wheelchair, and it was tipped back a bit, and he was just listening and enjoying all the sensations. It was one of the first times that he had anything to do with the congregation. He hadn't really met anybody before. So if you don't know Lars, he's, in brief, he's got multiple severe disabilities. He's developmentally about 4 or 5 months old. He's blind. He's nonverbal. And he loves people, and he loves music, and it turns out he loves church. He has learned since then to absolutely love church. But this was one of his first introductions. It was COVID. He was just meeting people. So I was chatting with some other people at a different table, and I noticed that one of our peeps had gone over and was interacting with Lars, which is fairly unusual. Because unless people have a relationship with him already, which she didn't, most people aren't really sure how to interact with him, so they hold back. But he just opened to her. He responded to her with his whole body. He was smiling. He's bringing his hands together, which is his way of saying all things positive. So she took one of these fabric hearts, had taken one of these fabric hearts over to him, and she showed it to him in his hand. I mean, she gets that he's blind, and so that his hands and his ears are where he receives information. So, and then she tucked the fabric heart into the pocket on his shirt, right over his heart. And she patted it to show him it was there. And of course, the whole thing made me cry. When I brought him back to where he lives at Seven Hills here in Groton, I told his nurse and his CNA a little bit about the day. And Lars started bringing his hand up to the pocket where the Valentine was still tucked in and sort of patting it. And he kept doing that with his, not a thing he does usually. He has repetitive motions that he does, but that's not one of them. And I was sort of looking at him, and finally it occurred to me, and I said, "Oh, Lars, do you want me to tell them about your new friend who gave you the Valentine in your pocket?" And he, like, his whole body exploded with yes, his big smiles and claps, and he's, yes, He can't say yes, but he can show yes. I had never before seen him communicate. In all of his now 20 years, then I guess 18, I've never seen him communicate so clearly that he wanted me to tell a story about something that happened. But this heart in his pocket gave him a way to do that. And I will never forget it. It changed me. And it actually started me in a whole new chapter of my ministry that's about exploring how to support the spiritual lives and experiences of folks with profound disabilities. That's ongoing work for me. 2 members of our congregation, Donnie and Paul Funch, had a son named Stephen who also had profound disabilities, and Stephen grew up in this church. Stephen unquestionably belonged here, and that is not a given. I know from experience that numerous kids with profound disabilities are born into UU communities, and their belonging is not at all assumed or experienced. But this community in Groton did that piece of trust work to embrace Stephen. And your culture passed it on even after Stephen's death, and it rippled on, and now Lars can roll into that and belong. He can feel he belongs here because he's safe and because he's loved. You each communicate that message to all folks around you, mostly non-verbally, interaction by interaction when you're at church, minute by minute, hour after hour, day after day, year after year. They're tiny little moments. And within the context of trusting, of course, we also fully accept, that we're all going to mess up and miss the mark, as humans sometimes do, as humans always do, eventually, right? We miss the mark over and over again, and we try again. One of the gifts Lars has to offer is a clear message to anyone coming through our doors who might be worried that they don't belong or that they aren't enough, right? Lars doesn't actually need words in order to communicate, check it out, I'm here. And so that means you don't need the right words to be loved here. You don't need to notice the right things or walk the right way or walk at all to belong here. Lars, in the context of our church, can teach all of us. You don't have to be what others consider smart or normal or regular to belong here. You don't have to have a resume or a job or money. You don't have to serve on a committee. You can just be. A while ago, I was enjoying one of our kids who was downstairs in the vestries, were spinning and dancing, and we made eye contact, and I said, "You look so happy." And they said, "I'm happy, I belong here." And I grinned and I just said, "It's true, you do. Tell me how you know that." And they stopped for a minute and thought about it. I love this. And he said, "Well, because Lars belongs here." As Stephen's mom, Donnie, said to me the other day, it's funny how the people society thinks have nothing to offer can sometimes have the most. And I'll return to Sean Parker Dennison to end. At this moment of ending, may there be a good word, a blessing, to help us remember what we have so often forgotten. May the message we need be gently spoken and held in the places in our cells, the fibers that hold all we need to maintain our gentleness, our courage, and our hope. At this moment of ending, may the goodness we wish for in ourselves and each other, this community, ecosystem, planet, this stardust galaxy, may that goodness become such a part of us that we cannot tell where the blessing ends and we begin.